Hello everyone, it's Leon here and I'm joined by Louise.
Hello.
Who has been playing Unravel, which I would like you to describe in one word before we start.
Heartbreaking.
Yes.
Which is the correct answer.
Yes, and now expand on that.
Okay, so the nice thing about Unravel is the fact that everyone expects it to be this really cutesy, which is a word that I absolutely hate. I despise cutesy. People think it's this sort of fluffy, non-thinky, skip through the butterflies, bounce on the sunflowers, sweet. And you know what they showed it has that. It's a puzzle platformer, and it has that. But at the same time, it is genuinely the most heartbreaking, anguished, bittersweet, poignant story.
So what is the story? Before we go into why it's so kind of painful and traumatic, what are you and what are you doing, for those who don't know?
For those who don't know, what you can see just now is little titular... No, he's not titular. A character known as Yarny. He's leaving behind a little woolen trail. Belongs to an old woman who lives alone. You see her at the start of the game, and she sheds a tear, and she's looking at some photographs, and he basically dives into each picture.
So you explore her house, don't you?
You explore her house, and then you explore her memories. So
Yeah.
what you're doing basically is sort of rebuilding things and sort of trying to bring back together the threads, so to speak, of a life and constructing them into a nice story. So while you are doing lots of puzzle platforming, you're going around, you leave string behind you. You can build string trampolines to jump between areas, and while yes, you do have these lovely areas of forests and woods and kites, you also have areas of mines. You go underground and you're hunted by voles, and
It's surprisingly traumatic. Like, it's dark. Like, the voles tear you apart.
Yeah.
Like, if you get hit by an electric shock, you burn from the inside.
And yes, the fact that you are being struck by an electric shock because you are exploring really nasty environment. So it reminds me a lot of Limbo, actually. There's quite a bit of trial by death occasionally that they just sort of sprinkle in that you really don't expect. Like, there's some really awful moments which actually we played a bit later in the game that I don't want to ruin for you, but it takes place in a car and is really quite traumatic. And it consistently surprised with how grim it actually is.
Yep.
And you know, the puzzling itself is really compelling. I really enjoyed it. It's you can fire a lasso, and you kind of have to think in string.
It's very satisfying. You come into a space and you go, okay, well, I've got a paint tin here and I've got these attachment points here and I need to get up there, but if I do the string this way, that doesn't work. If I do the string that way, that doesn't work. I don't know how to get the tin. And eventually you go, oh, I can push it up here and I can do this and pull that. And
there's
then
the element of the fact that you can go back on yourself. So if you've maybe fallen down, you can actually sort of abseil back up your string. So you've got this reverse mechanic.
And you actually have to manage your string as well, don't you? Because he unravels.
Yes,
that's
he does.
literally it.
Literally unravels.
And if you tie yourself up in too many knots, you can't go further,
Yeah.
which is literally a metaphor. The game is full of metaphors like this. Like, you tie yourself up in too many knots, you can't go forward in life.
Yep.
And there's all these things about, like, these strings that bind us, that we build through life, and and if you tend them, they can last over any distance.
And the sheer sort of heartbreaking thing is you go through each level, and at the end of each level you get like a little totem, a little woolen totem, which you then bring back to the woman's house. You come out of the level and into the woman's house, and then you put it on a photo album. You go into the photo album and it will then tell you the story of that particular level. And I'm not giving anything away in the fact that yes, this will make you really sad, and there were moments where I actually shed quite a few tears because it was so poignant and lovely, and just the kind of snapshots of childhood, and it makes you think of your own childhood, and it makes you think about, you have these sort of misty forest trips, because what they wanted to do was really show the environment of Sweden, and they wanted to bring sort of Martin Salen's natural environment into the game, and what they've managed to do there is the moments that we enjoy when we're outside, and it sort of draws all that into these lovely images that you sort of flick through, and each one is sort of lovely and poignant.
Yeah, and the thing I really loved about it is it tells this story of kind of love and friendship and sort of aging and growing and all this sort of thing. Loss, but it does it in a kind of a way where it doesn't it's not really emphatically like this is what happened. It almost kind of gives you enough that you use your own memories to fill the gap.
Yeah.
So you end up kind of being tied to it because it'll show like friendships or whatever in a way, and you're thinking of your own friendships and your own sort of loss and things like that. It really makes you a part of it.
And then to cement all of that, because as we all know, you're watching anything from Titanic, all the rest of it, it's the soundtrack that does it. It's purely the soundtrack, and this soundtrack gets you right in the feels. One minute you think you're fine, and then suddenly a gentle violin or a cello will come in, and there's the music's beautiful actually, and very emotional in that way, and that really ties it. Sort of another yarn pun. I'm not even meaning it. That really ties it all together. So it makes this lovely package of, yes, there's puzzling, and yes, you're going to end up stuck, but there's that lovely satisfying, oh, I managed to fix it. There was only one moment where I was sort of on a section for about half an hour trying to pass it, but there's a couple of those tiny bits which are slight niggles in the fact that it's not letting you progress a bit, and you can get... I was slightly frustrated for about 10 minutes before going, oh, of course, that's the solution. It's always that moment.
You don't get stuck forever. It's just little moments.
And it doesn't have the sterility of something like The Witness, which I find very sterile, but this has emotion and heart and depth, and you never feel like you're wasting time.
Yeah, and there's layers of things you can infer from it, and it's all full of meaning and symbolism that sort of works beautifully.
And it's a beautiful little surprise. You know, it's $14.99 on PS4, Xbox One, and it's on PC as well, so you can play it on all of those. And genuinely, if you just want to sit down for, I think it was 7 or 8 hours, it's just a beautiful experience, and I haven't felt like as really sort of emotional since playing a game since Journey, actually. Yeah. So it's genuinely a lovely surprise.
And so what did you give it?
4.5 stars.
Cool.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you very much.